Hi, this is Jack Downs with an online lesson that replaces our Friday in-class lesson. I can't be in class Friday. However, we'll do the class just like this in video. It won't be overly long, but it'll give you plenty of time, I hope, to do the assignments that are due Monday. So as we usually do, let's go ahead and start in Moodle, and let's start in the daily class schedule. And let's look at Friday. What was due today was you're supposed to have read chapters 1 and 2. I've given you a handout for that reading. However, if you had the book, you didn't need the handout. So please do that reading. The reading will get much more important and much more direct to what you're going to do very soon with chapter 3 that'll happen pretty soon. Or sorry, chapter 4 in particular for next class. In fact, we'll look at this. The topic today is anatomy of a web page. For some reason, it's said twice here to please bring your textbook to every class. I guess so. If you don't have it today, don't worry about it. But please, in the future, try to. You might need it some days. Again, that was the reading. And what you're supposed to read for next class is chapter 4. Now, I have not given you chapter 4. I don't think I did anyway. And if I didn't, I'm not going to. So that means you really do have to have the textbook now. So read chapter 4 for next class. And I'm going to be doing a presentation based on some of the stuff there. Yeah, okay. And what else is due? Reminder, there's a quiz on Wednesday. Introductory terms went over last class, and the basic anatomy of a website I'm going over this class. And there's something called a cover letter assignment and something called a welcome HTML assignment that are due next class. 2 more things. Yes, but they're really short and easy, and I'll go over them with you in just a moment. And I guess that's it for the schedule. So let's go ahead on to the anatomy of a web page discussion. Now, as we discussed last time, web pages are governed by simple text documents that link to and arrange text, images. Let's look at a basic one. Now, some of this will be repetition, but it's a good repetition, I hope. This is on the web. See, there's a regular HTTP, so on and so forth up there, a regular web address. It's called Jen's Kitchen. It's actually from your textbook author. And it is pretty simple. What do we have? We have a little piece of art. We have something that's some text. It's got some color on it, though. And we've got some margins. We've got some bolding. We've got another image. We've got a little rule there and a copyright line. It's a very simple page, though. And I could look at the source code of this page, remember. All I have to do on any page is go view page. No, not that. Sorry. View page source. And I could see I have I can find all that content, right? I can actually find in the body that little image called foods.gif. And I could find Jen's Kitchen. It looks a little funny because there's a special character in there, but it's there. I could find a paragraph, something called a strong inside of it, but it's the text that you just read there. And I can find another little image and so on. That's fine. And that is HTML. And it actually links to something called some CSS there too, right there. But I don't really care about it so much. It's nice to know that I can look at the source of any web page. And you can learn a lot like that. However, we want to open it up in our editor, our Notepad++, our HTML editor. And let's take a look at that and see what it looks like. And I've got it someplace. Hold on. Here's my Jen's Kitchen. I have it on my drive. I'm going to actually do a right-click on it. This is how I like to open individual files in Notepad++. I do a right-click on them and choose Edit with Notepad++. And there it is. Now let me make this a lot bigger for you. I'll make this bigger. And what do we see here? I see something called a doc type, important and necessary part of any HTML document. It tells it what kind of HTML we're using. This means the newest and best HTML5. It's just a plain old doc type declaration. And then I have something called HTML, closing HTML, also necessary part. I have the head. The head is the includes meta stuff, information about the page, but not information that appears on the page. And the two things that need to go there, actually, there's one thing that we'll call mandatory, which is missing here. There's the title, in this case, a link to a style sheet. All right, good. And what else? Then we get into the body. The body is what you think of as actually the web page, right? So we have an H1, that's a top level heading. It includes an image in this case, an IMG. All this is starting to make sense, right? There's Jen's Kitchen. This is that apostrophe right there, that strange big thing there. And then there's if you love to read about, oh, why is there a break there? I did that just to illustrate that some things like carriage returns or essentially enter keys things don't appear in HTML. Extra spaces, put a lot of extra spaces in. Those don't appear in HTML. HTML and everything in HTML has to have these tags around it. You have to have elements applied. If you love to read about strong means it's important. Cooking and eating. EM means it's said with emphasis. This site is for you. Then we have another paragraph with another image inside of it. And it says your pal at Jen's Kitchen. Then we have an HR. It actually means a different kind of information is coming up. Actually has a meaning. Yes, it does create a horizontal rule, but it actually has a meaning. And then in small, which is what we use for legalese kind of stuff, we have a copyright and so on. So all that stuff is true. By the way, I see that my Notepad++ has a red on the icon. That means I have unsaved changes. I will do a save. I'm going to run. I'm going to launch it in Chrome. Hey, it's the same thing that we just saw a minute ago. There's one. There's another one. This is off my local drive. And we can see all that content and where it comes from. But is this what plain old HTML looks like? It is not. This is not plain old HTML because there is a style sheet in there. What happens if we remove the style sheet? Well, I have a copy. Oops, wrong copy. I have a copy that has the style sheet commented out. I'm going to edit this with Notepad++. In other words, I've gone in and put these little codes around that line, which essentially disables it. Comments in either HTML or CSS are text that does not appear when the page is run. It's been disabled, or other information about the file, which is in the HTML, but doesn't appear when on the web page. So what happens here? So let's go ahead and run this without that. Here's the difference. So before it was like this, and just plain HTML. HTML, remember, is just content that structure has been added to. An image is still part of the content. The heading is still part of the content. But the color in the font, see the difference? The color in the font is not. Color in the font is in the CSS. The text here is still part of the content. All right, the HR is part of the content. This text down here is part of the content. However, the margins are not. The size and font of this text is not. The positioning of this image is not. That's all part of the CSS. Want to see the CSS? Well, let's just take a quick look at it. Again, this is somewhat repetition from what you've had before, but that's okay. Here's the kitchen.css. I can open that in Notepad++ also. Here it is. This is a very different looking file. This file goes to or attaches itself or instructs the stuff in the HTML file. This one back here, actually, because that's the one that's active. And it finds things like body, H1, paragraphs, and so on, and applies styling to them. Like to the body, we'll add a font, we'll add a width, we'll add a margin. To the H1, we'll add a font, we'll add a color, we'll add a margin. To IMGs, we'll do something. To a different IMG, we'll do something. To the small, we'll add a color. This is all presentation stuff. Sure, it looks a little strange right now, but things like font, width, margin, color, you know what those are. That's all it's about. So that's all presentation. Okay, so, and you've noted that in the HTML, how we have all these elements that are inside these angled brackets, and you will read about this if you haven't already. Some of them are base stuff that has to be on the page. Some of them have to do with the content that is in the page. By the way, the title is one example. The title doesn't appear on the body, on the web page, but it does appear in a couple places. In fact, you might be asked about this. Where does it appear? There it is up there. See, on the tab of the browser. Or if I had this browser minimized, if I had this page minimized and there was nothing else there, then it would also appear down on the taskbar where it was minimized. It also appears in search results. So the title is very important. Remember, the title is not the H1. The title does not appear here. The title appears there. When the browser is minimized, it appears, and it appears in the search result. It's like the name that appears first, the bolded bluish thing in a Google search result. Okay, I told you blank lines don't appear. I showed you the style. Now I think it'd be a good idea for you to open up Notepad++. So you really need to be doing this exercise either on your own computer where you have Notepad++, or in the classroom or a lab, or someplace else where they have Notepad++, which actually is a lot of places over in the big computer lab too. So here we go. I want you to make your first page. So where you find Notepad++ is this little greenish icon. You might find yours on the desktop of computers. This, of course, is Windows 10, so it's a little different, but you can search for it. You can find it under Programs. It's just like a little piece of paper with some green on it. Sometimes the icon has a lizard on it also, just in case you're wondering. Does I have one on the desktop? Let's see. Yes, I do actually. That's what it looks like on the desktop. Notepad++. There it is. I'm going to actually close all my other files so they don't get in the way for us. So when you first open up Notepad++, it usually looks like this, and there's usually a new. And there we go. We're ready to start. What I want you to learn and write down and memorize is the basic mandatory minimum structure of an HTML5 document. And here we go. I'll type it with you. I'm going to make this a lot bigger so you can see it better. And I'm going to tell you some things as we go. First of all, I've kind of made a mistake already. I'll explain it in a minute. So there's not much capitalization in anything we do, but there's some specific things that are capitalized, and one of them is doc type. And there's a space, and HTML is upper regular lowercase. Okay, that says doc type means you are going to use HTML5. Then every document has HTML tags. I like to do my opening and closing tags at the same time, and the closing tag always has a slash. These are all in angled, and remember it's the slash that is with the question mark, the forward slash, that slash right there. And then I put some extra returns in there for the rest of the content that's going to go in my page. Skipping lines doesn't make any difference. Now I'm going to have the head. I'm going to open and close the head. Whoa, not like that. Head, and I'm going to close the head. I like to do the open and close tag at the same time. But now you'll probably already notice something. My text looks a little plain. The text I showed you before in Notepad++ had like colors and stuff on it. That is because I have made a mistake. But it's something I can change at any time. I've not set the language. To set the language, you can do this at the beginning, or when you realize you forgot to do it, you can do it partway through, or you can do it at the end, although you've missed out on some of the advantages if you do it at the end. In Notepad++, we're going to set the language to, what is this? HTML. There it is. All of a sudden, our correctly typed elements are in blue. I'm going to go ahead and go down like that, and I like to tab some elements in. So I'm going to tab this one in, and tab this one in. When I click in one element, it highlights both the opening and closing elements of the same thing. By the fact they're in blue, it makes me know that they're right. I'm going to put a line here. I'm going to hit the tab key again. I'm going to put two things that you have to have. One of them is this. Meta space CHARSET. And you'll see Notepad++ is trying to suggest to me some things, and that's one of them is trying to suggest, but I like to just type them in myself. Equals, because you're going to have to rewrite these for me in a test and a quiz, so it's good to type them to help to learn them. So what do we have going on here? We have an empty element. There's no closing tag to meta. Meta is just a thing. We call it empty, a replacement element. And it has an attribute, which is char set. Whenever you have an attribute, you have an equal sign. Whenever you have an equal sign, you have quotation marks. And what's going to go in here is UTF-8. What does that mean? Oh, there's a lot to it. In fact, I can give you a reference for it. In the new textbook that's just out, there's a whole section on meta char set, or char set in particular, UTF-8. It just means use all the normal letters that we're supposed to use. And it kind of tells the document not exactly what language we're using, it's sort of like what alphabet we're using, and all the other characters to go along with it, which is a huge, huge, huge pile of characters. So now, when it gets here, the browser will know what characters we're using. I'm going to have to continue in just a minute. Okay, so here we go. Sorry for a little interruption there. So we did the Medicare set, and I explained that it's a little complicated what it means, but essentially it says use this alphabet plus a whole bunch of other characters that we have access to. And your textbook author says it's required, so we'll say you should do it. Then we have a title. Every page needs a title. So we'll consider it, that's supposed to be slash title. When I type it correctly, it lights up in purple, which is a nice feedback for me. These things, it doesn't matter if these go on different lines or the same line or whatever. And then I'm just going to type here the content that go in there. Of course, you have to put a real title in. For these first couple assignments, I often tell you what to use for a title for our little assignments. Otherwise, you just use something that makes sense. When we start working on real pages, information goes in the title. It's really critical. It's so important for search engines in particular, and more about that later, for what we call SEO. So there's a title. So again, this is not stuff that appears on the page. It's sort of information about the page. But what comes next is what we think of as the page. We have the body. Open the body, close the body. Slash. There we go. It light it up. That's good. I'm going to again tab this in a little bit. What I like to do is I like to use my tabbing for organizing, and you should too. HTML can be really messy and still look fine and really neat, but keeping it neat helps keep you organized. So the body, so the idea is the head is a subset of the HTML, so that's why I inset it, and these are subsets of the head, and the body's going to have some stuff too. It doesn't have anything that's mandatory though, so we're going to leave it open like that. And then we had the closing HTML, which you already typed. And extra lines there, sure, I don't really need all those. This is the minimum mandatory structure. Okay, so you can see the whole thing. Minimum mandatory structure of an HTML document. When I ask you that on the quiz, you have to be able to give me this stuff. Now, do you want to type this every time you do your page? I don't think so. So why don't you take this file right now, we'll put something else in it too, and save it on your drive in a folder for this class. So you can make a folder called 317, that would be nice. Save it in there and just call it something like base or start or blank or something. So you'll have a file there you can always go to and open up when you want to start a new project, and then do a save as with whatever it's supposed to be called and wherever you're supposed to put it. And what it's called and where you put it, those are important things. We haven't talked about naming too much yet, but when you do this, I'll do one right now. I'm going to do File, Save As. It's critical that the file name be all lowercase, no spaces, no special characters. I'm going to call mine Start. And I'm going to put it, I want to make sure I know where it's going. I'm going to save mine in some place. I don't know where. I should be putting it in my 317 folder, so I'll put it right in there, like that. It's called Start. I don't have to put .html after it. It will put that on there automatically. Good, and it saves it. Excellent. So now if I have that in my drive, anytime I want to start a new document, I can just go in here and do that. But we know a couple of things might be good to put in there. Every page is going to have an H1. H1, open H1, close H1. Oh. Okay, sorry, I had another interruption. So as I was saying, although it's not a necessary mandatory part of the HTML5 structure, if you're going to be making a blank document to just copy and reuse over, why don't you put some more things in it that you're always going to need, like H1. And if you want to, you could put some text in there or not, blank text sort of. By the way, I would tab that in. In fact, everything I think inside here would be tabbed in, at least to this level. And I could have put a paragraph. We're certainly going to have a paragraph. I'm going to close the paragraph. And it lights up as a result. That's all fine. And you can put more paragraphs if you want. And other things too, I suppose. Or later you might add some more things into this blank document. I'm calling it a start document. And you'll see everything, anytime I make any changes, the icon here in Notepad++ is turning red. That means I have unsaved changes. And whenever I do just a regular Control-S, save, it turns blue. It means I don't. By the way, what does this page look like right now? Well, if I launch it in Chrome, it looks like nothing because there's no content in there. There's no text in the H1, for instance. So it should not be a surprise. It looks like nothing. So that's your basic mandatory minimum structure plus a little bit, and the suggestion, but not requirement, but suggestion that you make some kind of a start document. Now let's start to look at the assignments for next time. And I'm going to keep this up because one of these involves the assignment for next time. I want you to take this basic minimum mandatory structure. This, by the way, is called the welcome page intro HTML welcome something assignment. Let's take a look at it in the draw Moodle, and then we'll go back to the assignment pages, the folder for handouts and assignments, and this one is called the welcome HTML page, and it looks like this. And the goal, as it says, is that, and this is due on Monday, so use the basic minimum structure, and which is actually listed right here again. Okay, good. And I want you to take that information that you put in the Moodle welcome assignment and put it in here. So the title should be your name, just your name. The H1 should be your name, again, just your name. And then the paragraphs, probably 3 paragraphs. Those are the paragraphs that you typed in that Moodle welcome assignment, the thing you put in the student forum, the student bulletin board there, that just talked about you a little bit. So is really just to get some text into a basic document. Remember, there's H1 and then the rest are paragraphs. You can test the file in the browser by using the run menu, and then you save it with, did I tell you what to call it? I don't think I give you the name of it, but I would use your name and then welcome, for instance, something like that. There it is, and there's a tip. Suggest you both memorize this structure and create a blank file, and so on. We already talked about that. So that's, where does that go? That is loaded up into Moodle. There is a Dropbox for this. So you put this in the Dropbox. And my suggestion is, please make sure after you upload the file, you click the Save button. So you're going to upload just this single HTML file by itself. One of the only times we're going to do this, a single HTML file by itself. Usually we do zip files. More about that later. Okay, so that's one assignment. It's pretty easy, really. It's just this basic structure. It's your name here, your name in here, and then multiple paragraphs. Remember, paragraphs are just paragraphs. So if I have another paragraph, there's no P1, P2, or anything like that. It's just another paragraph. And all the text for the paragraph goes in here. All the text goes in here. Okay? And all the text for the next paragraph goes in here. The next paragraph, another open and close P, and all the text goes in there. So that's that one. Now let's look at the other assignment, which is due for next class. And we'll go to the back here again, and this one is called the Cover Letter Part 1. And here it is. Okay, here, by the way, these links are going to be a problem right now because of these changes that have happened in the web system for the college, but I'll explain that in a minute. So your instructions are, I want you to just make a Word document. Now, this is not HTML. This is just a Word document, which is like a cover letter. This is the start of what will become the initial page in your website. And in it, all I want is your name at the top. Okay, good. Eventually, that'll become an H1, but for now, it's just your name. A subhead, a secondary headline that sums up your goal or gives a brief description of your credentials. Make this 4 to 10 words. This is required. Probably more than the 4-word end. And then write 3 to 5 paragraphs explaining the kind of job you're interested in. Briefly describing your credentials, justify what would make you a good hire. You don't have to be too specific. This is an overview or an introduction. Other pages that you will be creating will get very specific about all the courses you took, all the jobs you've had, internships or experience or one thing or another, right? And your hobbies and all this stuff. So just think about this as just a very brief introduction to yourself and why you would be a good candidate for whatever kind of job you imagine you get in the future. So it's all it's going to go in this Word document is your name, a subheading, which describes your goal a little bit, and then 3 to 5 paragraphs. You should save this on your drive to save it for later, but you're going to print it out and hand it into class and hand it into me in class on Monday. Let's look at an example. And I have this example on my drive, and that's not the one that I want. Yeah, it's not the place I want to be either. Hold on. Here we go. Let's use this one. Yeah. Okay, let's look at Gina's. First of all, let's look at that welcome thing, that first assignment we did with her stuff from the Moodle site. Okay, this is hers. I'm going to edit Notepad++, and there it is. She's got a meta. She's got a title. She called it About Me too. she's got a H1, she's got a paragraph, another paragraph, another paragraph, and if I run it, it looks like this. And yes, is it boring and plain looking? Yes, it is. Doesn't matter. It's just HTML. It's not supposed to have any CSS. Don't worry about it. It's supposed to be boring and plain. Okay? She's got an H1 and 3 paragraphs. Good. That was the welcome assignment, your first HTML page, basic one. Now, I have her cover letter here also, but I have it in a later version, which also has HTML in it. Okay, so don't be concerned that that she has things that you don't. She definitely does have things that you don't. She's going to have some style and so on, stuff like that. But it's just an example of the content that will go in your cover letter. I'm going to edit in Notepad++ and run it. And don't worry, remember, you're doing this on a Word document, just with your name and then a subheading. Hers is writer, comment, editor, and reporter. Yours could be something else, who knows. And then she has a number of paragraphs, actually. Don't worry about the bolding and so on, but she describes a little about herself. She says where she's in school here. This is actually probably not correct anymore, some of that. She talks about being in this job she had. I'm eager to work in any project right now. It's just sort of an introduction to her. Hers has got all this color and other stuff in it, so don't worry about that. Now what I want to show you is, I'm going to show you some samples. And these are the same things that I've given you or will be giving you on a CD. And to get to this, what I suggest you do is you right-click open, or actually open with, I like Chrome, on this samples HTML document. Here are some samples from past semesters. These are off from a drive or off from a CD or off from that zip file that I gave you to download. You get them any of those places. But let's just take a quick look. These are better examples. Li Ching's, of course, she's got her name, and it's fancy, but we're just talking about a Word document now. It's got future school counselor is her subheading. And then she has multiple paragraphs that talk about why she's a good candidate. Don't worry about the picture and the color and so on. That's not what you're doing at this point. Remember, this is just a Word document. Let's look at Samantha's. That's a good example. She's got her name. She's got born to write, dream to travel, aspire to be great. That's a lot of words for a subhead. She chose to actually do kind of like 3 little ones. That's okay, though. And then that was her motto. I attended SUNY Plattsburgh. I studied. I want to be a writer and so on. So that's her little cover letter stuff. So you're really talking about name, subheading, and some paragraphs. And what else? I'm using the back button for all these, by the way. How about Jessica? She put an objective in here too, but don't worry about that. Her subheading was Future Travel Magazine Journalist, and then she's got multiple paragraphs here to talk about some stuff she did and why her seeing the world is important for her. So on and so forth. I'll let you look at the rest of these. These have a lot of style in them and lots of other interesting stuff, but that's not the point. The point is a heading, a paragraph, sorry, a heading, a subheading, and a paragraph. That's what you're required to do. Okay, as I finish up, and I'm afraid there's a lot more going outside, let me just tell you that, look back again. Yes, read Chapter 4. Yes, there's a quiz on Wednesday. You may use a single index card, which you'll be supplied. I might get you more than one, but you only get to use one. You may write handwritten both sides. Introductory terms will be on it from previous lesson, and this basic anatomy stuff, the basic required content of a HTML5 document. Cover letter assignment is due on Monday, and the welcome HTML assignment. Cover letter assignment, remember, is just a Word document you print and bring in. The welcome HTML assignment is that your first web page, your first HTML document loaded up on Moodle. Hope that all worked for you. If any questions, email me. I'll see you on Monday.